Alright guys, what's going on? We're doing a little update here on my Jeep. We've been doing quite a bit of work on it lately, just kind of updating it, and we're throwing some more power into it and making things better. So we're putting some bus bars in. We've swapped out all the CCA wire for OFC now. We're going to put bigger amps and all kind of fun stuff. So just a little bit of mix up here for the coming into 2019. We're getting ready for a show in November in Sacramento, big demo off, and then we're getting ready for CES in January. So I'll show you guys what we're up to. If you've already noticed, we've gotten rid of all the equipment back here as far as amps go, so we're getting those replaced. So we sold off the 3.5Ks, and now we're going to be moving on to a set of 5Ks. So we'll show you a little bit of what I'm doing back here, and we'll go over some of the wiring aspects. There'll be probably a couple of videos going over different topics, adjusting amps and such. So let's go check it out. Okay, so we're back here working on the battery bank. We've had it pulled out, and we've put in bus bars. So these are a pretty nice set I got picked up, 1 inch by 1 inch, polished, with plenty of set screws, so I can hook up quite a few wires. So we got these guys linked up, and we're going to remount the bracket that holds them in to my trim. And you can see we've added these two speaker grills, and they're not for speakers, they're actually for air ventilation. So I've gone ahead and put a fan in here, a tube fan like they use on boats and stuff, and it's going to suck air in, push it out, you know, so there'll be a good air exchange happening back here. I would like to have put that one up higher because heat rises, I know. So if we get that in the comments, I'm going to be like, you dummies didn't watch the video. Heat rises, so I wanted my fresh air to come in lower and my hot air to go out higher, so it's exchanging through heat rise, but that's kind of impossible due to the physical limitations of what's behind these panels. So I found my best bet was to have air coming in, and it's going to hopefully go across the amps because they're going to be kind of as they were before in that general area, and it'll pass over and through them off to the outlet. So this is going to suck air out. This one's going to push air in from outside. So I got them ran down to underneath the vehicle. I got to clean up my setup here and put some grommets on these wires, but that is the ducting. And then there's another one on the other side that I'm still working on. So hopefully that works pretty good. And hopefully while we're driving, it functions and we're not getting too much air whipping by and keeping it from actually working. So we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed. It's the only solution I got right now. So these are just vents. So that's what these are. And then the other things we were working on were swapping to OFC. If you guys haven't known, for years I've ran CCA in this thing just because I like to prove people wrong about CCA. And I had pulled it all out. It's right here. And to just show you guys, there is no corrosion on this stuff. Look at that one. That's roughly 5 years old, Sky High Cardio. And a lot of people bash on them online saying it comes corroded. Never ran into that issue. That's 5 years old. It was running under the car. You can see how dirty it is. And there's no problems. I haven't found any corrosion on anything. So for you Sky High lovers, I love it too. We've gone to OFC though because now my demands are getting larger, and CCA has its limitations, and you know, so for bigger systems it's probably a good idea to switch. So what I have finished up here is the wiring of the underhood setup. So we have our terminals, our wires running through, and a big JS alternator, and our second one down there. And we even got distro blocks for the alternators. So it's wired up pretty nice, so get a look at that. And then we have pulled the subs, and we're doing some work. I'm putting rings in there so that the there's new like wood to bolt to for the subs, because that baffle's getting kind of torn up over many sub exchanges. And then we also are adding the SMD temperature meter here. This is going to control the fans, and I have it mounted right there. So we still got to wire that up, but it's going to tell me a temperature readout on the amps, and then kick on fans whenever needed. So that's its job. And yeah, as far as everything else goes, I don't think there's too many other changes happening. Mostly just electrical upgrades, and we're swapping to the bigger amps. We are running direct leads through the wall now, so I'm testing out some different products here. This is like a construction adhesive, and if it doesn't quite make me satisfied on sealing these wires in, then I'm going to try an epoxy. So you can see that's on there. And then my SMD terminals will slide on top of those, so they'll poke through there. So that's how I have it set up. That's kind of the quick overview of where we're at, and we'll just keep continuing. What I'm working on right now is my wire management. So we're going to run our negative runs in, we'll run our positive runs in, and how I'm going to do this is I want to evenly pull power off the battery bank, and I want to evenly put power into it. And the best way I think is to run your positive or your negative to one end of the bank, and then the opposite will go to this end of the bank. So you have like an exchange. So you're basically forced to charge throughout the whole bank, because your positive's coming in there, your negative's coming in there. If you put them off to one side, you're gonna get this battery is gonna get a lot of good charging. This one down here may not get so much good charging, and it's gonna be suffering. It's not gonna get much attention. Same goes for when you're wiring up amps. If you wire all your amps at one end of the bank, you know, your positive and negative, you're going to be pulling through the whole bank, mostly on these end batteries, and then these ones aren't going to see as much. It's kind of a nominal thing when you have nice bus bars, but it's something to keep in mind. So I like to evenly distribute the amp load across these, and then I like to evenly distribute on each end the power and ground. So you can inversely do this. Your powers would go on this end and your grounds would go on that end. Totally fine. You just want to kind of get them separated so you're getting full coverage on the whole bank. So that's kind of a quick explanation. And yeah. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of cable management as we're getting ready to put these guys in here. I just kind of want to do a clean job running them in. And every once in a while I get one complaint from someone who says I talk too much in the videos, and I don't know how else to explain things to you guys if I'm not able to speak. So I'm going to try to simultaneously work and talk, so we don't get those complaints, because some people are impatient, and that's a shame, because there's a lot of cool things to learn. I still learn quite often. So as you can see, what I'm doing right here is I'm kind of measuring out my zip ties so that they're somewhat evenly spaced, and I'm putting a tie around 2 wires at a time. Before completely tightening it, I slip in this other one that gets the other 2 wires together, keeping track of which way my zip ties are faced so that they'll all be uniform. So if you're OCD, this kind of helps a little bit. There's probably other methods of cable management, but this is kind of one I do. So you kind of link the wires together like this, and then you can go to crank them down a little bit, you know, and you get your wire spaced out evenly, and looks pretty good. So I'm just gonna run across the whole bank like that and get them all secured. Okay, so once you get some zip ties going, it's time to cut them. And I suggest don't be one of those people who leave zip ties really sharp to where they like cut the shit out of you when you're trying to work on things later on. So I get a pair of nice wire cutters here, and I try to get them real close to the base and a clean snip so that there's no burrs or any pokies. You can touch it, it's real good. I like to aim them so that it cuts sideways like this, and it'll ride right across that pretty clean for the most part. If you try to cut them this way, it doesn't usually come as clean. So I always go this direction. So the width is this way, and my cutters are going to cut it that way. And if there's a little burr, you can come back and clean it. So now it's completely safe to touch, and it's not going to hurt you. Alright, so a little update here on the progress. We are slowly loading subs back into the enclosure here. As you can see, we got 3 of them. I put these wood rings in here to give us some new places to bolt subs down, since some of these old rings were getting pretty torn up with all the old screw holes. So yeah, we're doing that, and we ran our direct 8-gauge leads from back there up forward. So these are OFC, and we're just going to wire them into the coils as we install. Have this spare top here, so I was using it to get my sizing here, but this is basically the whole sub without a motor on it, as you can see there. So this will be our coil that travels up and down. So this is a fresh, ready to go. So all I have to do is unbolt a motor off that one, put it on this one if I ever need it. So that's how I recon these. Just 8 Allen bolts. So there's the inside of the enclosure, and here's our lower chamber. Nothing crazy. Got some screws back there. There's a couple braces. I don't know that we can actually see the faces of the subs. There's a little look. So yeah, and then there's the bottom of the port. So yeah, that's there. And then back here, we're getting slowly closer to putting amp racks in. It's a little dusty right now, but these are the 8-gauge runs. And we also are doing LED lights back here, finally, so we can light everything up at night. So those are going to get wired in on a switch, and we got our batteries. And these are the racks that I made a while back. These are just welded, and we got to put the shelves on. So we'll go through all that. We're adding some fans, and we also got these other fans working. So everything's good to go. We're just going to give you more update tomorrow when there's some light, and we'll slowly start putting amps in and finish putting subs in here. Alright everybody, so we made a little bit of progress since last time we did an update here. Right now we're running wires to amplifiers and finishing up these nice little amp racks I'm putting together. So that slides out, and there's one of the 5Ks, and there'll be 3 of them. So what we got going on here is these are speaker wires, and they have destinations. For this set right here, these will run into the amp right there. We haven't quite gotten ready for that yet, because I'm going to run all the power and grounds for the most part for these amplifiers, get them set up that way, and then I'm going to start gain matching before wiring up any of the speakers. And we have a bit of a process we're going to go and try to go over concerning that. So this is kind of what we were looking at. This is as clean as I could get the wiring to get over here. Everything just needs a good wipe down, but we got the custom made Jeep and Bass heat shrinks, and got some over here, and everything's gonna run out, and we're gonna do a sweeping effect of all the wires. We're just gonna come over to our fuse block and do that. Here's some of the connections underneath where the batteries are at. So we're gonna just continue making those clean and straightening them up. It's a little bit hard to see with the lighting in here, but that's set up. Then up here we have the Audio Dynamics 4 channels, 1000.4s that we will be working with. So we'll continue doing the updates here, and we'll show you a little bit of wiring and how I like to do it. Alright guys, so we're going to be working on this wiring setup here. As you can see, I've kind of got it mocked up, started. So this bottom amplifier has already been wired in, and we're going to do a sweep on both directions is kind of the idea. So I'm going to kind of show you how I go about making these the right length, and really kind of making it flow nicely and look nice. So in my situation here, I'm stacking these amplifiers one at a time, and I'm kind of wiring them as I go, and then removing them, and then rewiring them. So it takes a lot of time, and the best things I can recommend would be having the little set screw adapters for the dual inputs, or at least a single input, so that way you can unplug wires from the amplifiers really easily without having them fray when you got to be pulling in and out to check your length of wire and different things. So it's a lot of time, so definitely you got to have some time available to wire so nicely, and you're going to be wasting a little bit too. So it's a little bit costly. We got this bucket full of copper that I will recycle, which is always a good idea. So that kind of offsets the cost of wasting a little bit of wire. You're going to have pieces that you're just going to have to get rid of. So I guess we'll go over kind of the whole process. We'll set one up here. This amplifier on top, in the middle, this will be the middle amp. I'm flipping it backwards so that the inputs are on this side versus the top and bottom, which they're going to be on this side. So the top and bottom amps are going to be able to come off this side of the block. This amp comes off this block, side of the block, and the 4 channels. So it should even everything out, which is the goal here. So right now we got these kind of held up temporarily with some zip ties. You're definitely going to want a lot of zip ties. So get a big pack of those and get tons of wire and tons of lugs, and you can make something that looks pretty cool. If you're on a budget and you want to make it look nice, and it's just about taking your time and trying to be very methodical and not wasting any wire. I thought a few days ahead on how I was going to do this. So here we are, and let's get started with it. All right, so the first step on my particular install here is getting these guys sorted out. So I got a bunch of these, and they actually go one way. You probably won't be able to tell on camera, but they have an offset. So one's going to be a little bit more to the right, one's a little more to the left on these nubs. And that gives you some more spacing here so that the connections between positive and negative aren't touching. So you're going to want to go to your amplifier and have your amp key, and we're going to back these off. Oops. Back these off so that we can put our terminals in. These are dual input terminals from Sky High Car Audio, and very highly recommended. You can get more power to your amplifier by running 2 runs instead of 1, and it makes a very clean install. And I've even seen them put out a little more power just even putting the singles on versus just having a raw wire going in. So I believe there's some benefit there. So we're going to set these offsets so that we can make sure that these terminals are as far away from each other as possible. So we're definitely going to want to go this way. I was backwards my first time, so that gains you about a 1/4 inch of spacing between these things, which is definitely needed so you can keep safe. And then they kind of self-adjust themselves when you tighten them down into place. So there's those 2. Okay, so the easiest way I'm finding to do this on my install is by starting the end of the wire at the battery bank. My bus bar happens to be negative on the back side here, so I'm connecting to the back one. I'm going to tighten it down, and then we'll run our length to the amplifier and choose how long we want to make it. So in order to get it hooked up to the battery bank, I got these set screw holes you can see. So we're going to strip the wire off at the end here, and hopefully we can get some focus. So we're going to go back yay far. That's about the length of my finger to my first knuckle. And I'm going to squeeze these down, and I kind of just spin them around without cutting the wire, and then pop it off. So we have a stripped wire end here. And I purposefully stripped it back a little longer than I needed to go into the set screw hole, because now I'm taking this heat shrink and one-handedly gonna feed this on here. And see, the heat shrink, most people would just put it right to here and call it good, if you're even going to heat shrink it. What I like to do is I go past just a little while. So there's only that much wire exposed now. Okay, so now we're gonna put the heat shrink on with the heat gun here. Take a second to warm this up. I haven't done this yet today. As you can see, it does that over the wire. So what's the purpose of that? Let me show you. So when you go to insert this into here, very carefully, this is just an example of any set screw style. You can see right there, the heat shrink covers up all those frays. So now you have a really clean cutoff to your amplifier or whatnot. So that's what I do on mine. It's just a little trick to clean them up a little bit. Just a little bit overlap, maybe like half of my finger thickness. Okay, so now we have this connected. We're gonna run the wire to where it belongs. So what I'm doing is I'm just bringing it around this side. I'm gonna run them through my amp rack here, and I got this one already cut. I want it to be about that length, so that it will pretty much just run into this terminal with a little bit of slack, just like so. I'm gonna cut it off, and now we're gonna strip it and do the heat shrink again, just like before, and then we're gonna connect it to our dual input here, and put it in. And once we like our length, we're going to try to copy it best as we can, which is kind of just a timely process, getting these wires all secured and copied to each other, so you have those nice sweeping arcs and they all look symmetrical. Okay, so get these things to look nice, kind of how we're starting here. I start at one end, the end that I know I'm not going to be able to change much, which is my crimped end. So it's going to be pretty much stationary here on the S&D fuse holder, and we're actually going to just bolt it on where it actually goes. For now, this is just temporary, so I'm not going to put all the hardware on there. Put a nice 90 here and crank it down a little bit. So it's straight up and down, pretty close. And then we're gonna kind of start the sweep here with it. Get this other end. And we're in kind of tight quarters, so I'm gonna have to trim a little bit. I'm gonna get a rough length where it goes. I'm going to cut it right here for now. And we'll run it the actual way it's going to go in there. Keep in mind when you're doing this, you don't want any of these to be hot. So I got all my fuses out so that I don't have to fear about touching wires to each other. Kind of rotating them so these letters face out. And now we can choose our length. So I'm going to go put my thumb right here and cut off a little bit. So now we got our length figured, and I'm again going to put the heat shrink on it. Just like we did before, dip a little over the copper. And I'm also lining the letters up to my letters. So, something like that. this one, since it's kind of, the next one's going to be under this one in the sweep. It's going to run underneath. We're going to actually run this guy into the top of my dual input and this guy into the bottom, so that the sweep continues all the way through and you don't get like a crossover on wires. I did that over here, but I'm not really concerned on it there, but this front one I can see a little more, so I'm going to make sure I route that correctly. So that's going to go in the top half of my dual input here. And we're just going to back the set screw out almost all the way to where the hole is completely cleared open for the wire to go in. And you can see it, I pinched the wire like this, and I put one end down and I pinch it down to the block, so I press it in as I'm pinching sideways, and rotate it on in, and then try to pinch the top a little bit as I come, and then it goes in perfectly clean, no frays. So that's kind of the goal. And we'll go ahead and tighten this down. I tighten the hell out of these because I'm always afraid of them coming out. So get a manhandle grip on there and just go at it. And there's your finished installation on here. And I'm going to go ahead and place it back on the amp and feed it through. And now we have to do our best to match that sweep again with the next one. So I'm going to pin this up with a zip tie. Just to kind of put them where they belong. Alright, so something like that. And we're going to get another piece cut here. So we're going to throw a lug on this, and then we can repeat the process. So let's throw a lug on here, I'll show you that. I think you guys got the hang of what I'm doing here. Just a matter of kind of fitting, test fitting, and then adjusting as you go. And you can get these to line up fairly close. It's hard to get them perfect, but that's a pretty good start. Alright, so we're here on the ground, and I'm going to grab this end of the wire here, and I'm going to use this tool. This is a hammer crimper. You can get these online. Definitely my favorite, other than the hydraulic one that you can get if you want to spend more. These are probably $20 to $30, so it's a little bit more affordable. So we're going to go ahead and strip the wire based on what the terminal shows us. So I like to set the terminal right around there, and I'll put my finger, that's where I'm going to strip it. I'm going to do that same process I just showed you guys earlier, where this will focus good. We're going to pinch it this way. We're going to place the bottom in the lug. And you can see I'm kind of pushing it down in there. I'm rotating, and then I'm trying to pinch the top as best as I can as I finish off on there. So I'm getting a few coming out. See, that's what we're trying to avoid. Sometimes it takes a time or two, especially since I'm looking through a camera. I think I stripped that back a little far, so what I can do is trim it, pull off the end here. It makes a nice mess of frays all over the ground, but I'll get another chance to show you this. So I pinch, push down, and rotate, and it goes in. So there we go. It's And then I place it in my crimper. And we're gonna try to focus down there. And the lighting's terrible, but hopefully you can kind of see that lug in there. I'm in my own shadow here. And we're just gonna whack this guy. And there's your crimp. It's not coming off. So, last step, heat shrink. And you notice I've been lining up my letters. So, just place it